Welcome back, you guys. In this video, we're gonna analyze another video that I made. This one is for a client, and this type of video is called a testimonial video. So this is the client wanted a video of one of his clients giving a testimonial for his business. So this happens a lot. I shoot a lot of stuff like this, testimonial videos. And testimonials are very important for everybody's business. And I tend to get a lot of these types of calls. People have, they just finish a project for a client and they want that client to hop on a video and give a nice testimonial. So that's what this is. But I wanted to show you guys this video and break it down because it has the speaking, but it also has B-roll. So I wanted you guys to get an idea of what B-roll is and how it works layered over top of the speaking. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to play the video in its entirety. We're just going to watch it together, and then I'm going to back it up to the beginning, and we're going to talk about what's happening. So here is the testimonial video.
So we first met when Rajan was having, I think it was an editing workshop or something like that in the space. And I attended that. It was through the Professional Photographers of Canada. And that was the first time I got to see him in real life, but I had followed his work actually when I lived in Regina. So I was a long time follower. So I decided to hire Rajan for my portraits because he has a really clean style, very commercial looking, and as a regular human, you don't think you can look like that. So I appreciated that he was able to take regular looking humans and make them look like stepped off a cover of a magazine. Well, as a photographer, being behind the camera is always a little more unnerving. We're very much more comfortable doing the clicking of the shutter, but he made it very easy, gave really good direction on how to pose my hands, like right down to the smallest thing, like how to pose my hands in my hair, move my chin just a little bit, like very tiny details, which made it all work. I appreciated that I looked like myself, which is usually like, I'm used to taking self-portraits of myself. So when you see other people's, there's always a bit of an expectation that you have, and then the reality sometimes is different. But in the photos that he took of me, it was pretty much an exact replication of how I would take my own photos, but with his own like style and finesse on them. It was amazing, and I would definitely do it again.
Okay. Cool. So I'm going to back it up and we're going to watch again. There's a lot going on in there. This was actually a really cool video and we had a ton of fun shooting this. Also, the first thing you've probably noticed is that it is black and white, which was a creative choice that I made. And Rajan, by the way, is a local photographer. He's awesome. He's a friend. He's a peer of mine. We've worked together on shoots a ton over the years where sometimes he's on photography and I'm on videography, and we work together with clients. We've done some cool commercial jobs together. So anyhow, he reached out to me and brought me in to do this testimonial for him. So yeah, okay, I'm going to back it up to the beginning. And yeah, like I said, I chose to do it in black and white. I showed him the black and white. He loved it as well. So we went with that. It just really fit the vibe. Now, this first shot was cool. It was an out of focus shot So I was using a 50 millimeter, my 51.4, which has an incredible amount of bokeh when you shoot down at 1.4. So sometimes for artistic reasons, I'll shoot B-roll at a focus on purpose. That way like I said, I can put logos over top of it or play with it, or maybe I want light leaks. There's all sorts of reasons. So I love doing stuff like that. Now, let's let this play a little bit and we'll just keep discussing. But eventually this comes into focus. It starts out, and this is called a rack focus. And then it comes in and you get to see him. This is all considered B-roll. B-roll is the footage that's happening outside of the actual main speaking. So this is all B-roll. I'll stop right there. These would have been gimbal shots. Yeah, these were gimbal shots for sure. Just wide, gimbal, smooth, walking around. Also, I'll stop there. The idea is that we're setting the scene, we're setting the tone. So once he finishes looking at us, it dissolves and so once he finishes looking at us, okay, so what's happening here is this B-roll is setting the scene. So this is considered a detail shot. You see the backdrop, that canvas, and you see his feet, and then it cuts to what he's actually doing. So he's setting up the backdrop in the studio. So we're building to something, right? And you start to see, okay, he's in a studio, there's lights, so this guy is a photographer or a videographer or something. Okay. So he's still setting it up. Just some extra B-roll.
So we first met.
Okay, so this shot here, I've done this a few times in many different projects, just for something as a transition. What I like to do, you can do this in all sorts of different ways, but I like to find ways to get shots that can transition us from B-roll into the speaking. And that could be, a camera pan. It could be a more extreme movement of the camera, like a whip. In this case, I was just shooting straight at a light and I had him turn it on and it gave us a flash. So like a big flash of light. And then in my mind, I wanted to use that to, dip into the scene of her talking, and you use that flash of light as the transition. Okay, so let's watch that again.
So we first met when Rajan was having, I think it was an editing workshop.
Great. Okay, so now we're into the speaking. So a couple of things to note here. She has a lav mic on her, so we've got audio coming from this mic, and I have two camera angles that you would have noticed as well. So I've got the straight on shot, and then I like having a shot of someone talking off camera, not looking right at the camera. So this one over here, I had from the side so that we get her, not looking right at the camera. And it just changes it up. It's a nice bit of variety to have the front and the side one. So whenever possible, I try to always have multiple cameras so I can get different angles, and then I mix them together just because it gets a little boring when it's just one camera angle. Okay, so we'll back it up and we'll let this play again, and let's see what else we're doing here.
Shop or something like that in the space. And I attend.
So that's a B-roll shot, a close-up, or a detail shot, if you will.
It was through the...
That would have been handheld as well. I would have been just holding my camera, probably with my 50, just getting a nice, clean detail shot.
And I attended that. It was through the Professional Photographers of Canada.
Another clean detail shot.
And that was the first time I got to see him in real life, but I had followed his work.
Something we should mention as well, or we should discuss as well. So her speaking is in 24 frames per second. So her speaking is real time because it's real, and we want that to be as real and natural as possible. So I would always shoot that in 24 because I do like my cinematic looks as well. So yeah, 24 for the speaking, both angles. The side is also in 24. But all B-roll is shot in 60. So I should have mentioned that off the top. All of the B-roll is slow motion, and you would have noticed that anyways. But yeah, it was B-roll is 60, speaking is 24, and that's very common for me when I do this type of stuff, especially with this sort of slower music vibe to it. the faster video that you saw before, that worked well in 24, but this sort of like screamed slow-mo for sure. So that's what I did for my B-roll.
In Regina, so I was a long-time follower. So I decided to
Now, one other thing I'll point out, this side angle, I actually did have my camera on something called a slider, and it was moving very slow. So if we watch this side angle again, there's a little slow panning happening.
So I was a long-time
see the movement.
follower.
If you watch that window,
So I decided.
here, watch it again. See the windows moving?
So I decided. So I was a long-time follower. So I decided to hire Rajan for my portraits because he has a really clean style.
Now, the next thing I'll mention, and I think this is very important, and I'm always very mindful of this stuff when I'm shooting, is that the B-roll needs to complement what she's saying. So when I'm doing a shoot like this, the order of events that I like to do it in is speaking first, because then I get to hear the script. I get to a better understanding of what she's talking about. And as we're shooting that, I'm making notes of some, important things and B-roll things that I want to shoot. Now, there are times where this stuff is all pre-done and pre-planned and pre-discussed, and, you could do the B-roll first for sure and go down your list. In this situation, I remember we didn't have as much of a plan. It was more of what you call a loose sort of shoot. We showed up. I knew all the gear that I wanted to play with. We knew we were gonna do the interview, but I didn't totally have any B-roll planned out. So having her speak first was very important. That way I could really understand what the story is and what I need to put together. And then when it came time to shooting B-roll, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I need that B-roll to be able to match up to what she's saying. So if she's saying one thing, I want to be able to show that as best as I can in the B-roll. That way, as she's speaking, I can cut to those images, if that makes sense.
Very commercial looking, and as a regular human, you don't think you can look like.
So as she's discussing this, I get to show her being shot and having her photo shoot. So we set up kind of a mock photo shoot so that we could show those images.
So I appreciated that he was able to take regular looking humans and make them look like stepped off a cover of a magazine. Well, as a photographer, being behind the camera is always a little more unnerving. We're very much more comfortable doing the clicking of the shutter, but he made it very easy, gave really good direction on how to pose my hands.
Yeah, so again, she's talking about being in front of the camera. She's also a photographer, actually. So there's two photographers in this video, but she's typically behind the camera as the one shooting, so because she's talking about stepping out in front and getting out of her comfort zone, that's what we wanted to show. So this B-roll matches up perfectly and really puts, brings the story together, right?
Down to the smallest thing, like how to pose my hands in my hair, move my chin just a little bit, like very tiny detail.
So this was cool. I just got some shots of the actual photos on the laptop, so I had them scroll through just so you could see some of the finals, just as a way to change things up, right? And I purposely saw some window shine in the laptop here, and I thought that was kind of artsy and, interesting. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. I showed the actual shoot, but wouldn't it be nice to show the photos? And what if it wasn't just the photos, zooming on the screen? What if it was the laptop with some shine from the room? So that's what I went with.
Which made it all work. I appreciated that I looked like myself, which is usually like, I'm used to taking self-portraits of myself. So when you see other people's, there's always a bit of an expectation that you have, and then the reality sometimes is different.
So just more B-roll of her in front of the camera, which just helps to paint the picture. This was a pretty cool shot with this, I don't know what you call this material, this metallic material. There's all sorts of light hits from the window and shine happening. So really cool shot, and you have the fan going here as well. So, and then I'm just kind of panning from behind Rajan's back here.
But in the photos that he took of me, it was pretty much an exact replication of how I would take my own photos, but with his own style and finesse on them.
Yeah, that's a cool shot. So just something to point out here. This shot of Rajan, you could technically consider this a silhouette where I've somewhat exposed for the outside. And then he's darker. He's not completely blacked out, but he is dark enough where I would consider this as a silhouette shot. So I was mindful of this exposure. I thought it was a cool shot, and I knew that it would work well, color or black and white. And it turns out I went with the black and white, and it was, in fact, pretty cool, in my opinion.
Like style and finesse on them. It was amazing, and I definitely...
When you're doing stuff like this, when smiles happen like that,
definitely do.
I'll show that again. That's always a good thing. The music's kind of pulling at the heartstrings, and we're having a moment here, and that smile was perfect. So when you see that type of emotion, keep shooting, get close up if you can. It's always a good thing.
And finesse on them.
Yeah, you can see she's happy, she's enjoying herself, and she's where she wanted to be.
It's amazing, and I definitely do.
There, okay, so another example, like I said it in the B-roll here, but she had a nice smile again, and I got it on both angles, and I used it in the video, and I love it. It makes me smile when I see that. Here, we'll watch all three smiles. So there, okay, so here.
It was amazing, and I definitely do.
And she ends on a huge smile. Yeah. Even the laugh was perfect. I kept that in. And then ending on the final photo. So these were the actual photos that I zoomed on purpose. Yeah, and these are the actual final photos that I zoomed on the screen on purpose, so you get the full quality idea of it. The other one was just the laptop version, but I wanted to end it on the real photos. And the logo to end. Okay. Cool. So I hope that was helpful. There was a lot happening there, and there's a lot that goes through my mind when I'm doing this stuff, but I've also done this stuff so many times over the years that, I have a system, I kind of have a method to doing this stuff. And there's also the off the cuff creativeness to it as well, where it's sometimes I work best just being able to float around in the room and just grabbing shots, looking for moments, looking for angles, that type of stuff. And then another thing to mention again is that, yeah, the speaking part was in 24 and the B-roll was in 60 slow-mo. So I tend to do that when the vibe calls for that. And so there you go. I hope that helps, and we will see you in the next video.